Blind taste tests prove it. Tabasco salsa picante wins. The superior Mexican-style hot sauce.
Welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast for leaders of growing restaurant companies looking to take their businesses to the next level. In nearly 2 decades covering restaurants, I've gained access to some of this industry's most influential decision makers, and I'm letting you in on the conversations. In today's episode, you'll hear from the CEO of a better burger chain about how she's setting the legacy brand up for a new phase of growth, and why making changes to your business today requires more risk and nimbleness. Shannon Hennessy is the CEO of Habit Burger and Grill, the California-based better burger chain that's grown to nearly 400 locations over its 56 years, and now, with help from parent company Yum Brands, is plotting coast-to-coast growth. Shannon joined Habit Burger back in 2022 from sister chain KFC, and she took over as CEO in 2023. And she's overseeing the strategy to, as she calls it, double charge growth. She joined the podcast to talk about creating a fresh experience at Habit Burger as part of that growth, and about how making changes today as a restaurant leader is different even than it was just 3 to 5 years ago. In this conversation, you will learn more about how scaling your business requires strength in new areas, why you don't have the luxury of time with brand changes but still need to be patient with results, and why restaurant leaders of today must be better gamblers. Yes, must be better gamblers. If you learned something from this episode, go follow Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave feedback. That is the best way to get that lesson to a fellow restaurant leader. Jumping now into my interview with the Habit Burger CEO, Shannon Hennessy. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview, as I will share my 6 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Okay, sitting down with Shannon Hennessy, the CEO of the Habit Burger and Grill. Shannon, thanks so much for taking some time today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Shannon, this is a crazy question to start with, just because the habit's been, it's the habit, but I live in Ohio and I don't have a Habit near me. What is this brand all about for those who may be, East Coast and not as familiar with the Habit Burger?
So glad you started there, Sam, actually, because I still talk to far too many people these days who actually don't know the magic of the Habit. Still two types of people in the world, people who love the Habit and people who don't know us. So hopefully we can bridge that gap even faster. But the Habit is this amazing better burger concept. We offer fresh, feel-good food for our customers, which are families. And at this point, we're still largely a California-based brand. About 80% of our business is in California, but we're in 14 states around the US and really trying to win the better burger war.
Yeah. Well, even somebody who's just a casual observer of the restaurant industry may know one of the most significant things about the Habit Burger, which is that it was acquired by Yum Brands in 2020. Now, for those who are like me and have been watching this industry for a long time, know the sort of happenstance of the acquisition happening 2 months before COVID, but certainly working out pretty well, I'd say, for Yum, and has become this great burger player in that incredible biggest restaurant portfolio in the world. You came in through Yum, though, right? So you had an interesting perspective, I imagine, on Habit Burger before you joined the team. Tell me what you thought of this brand from the outside looking in.
Well, like you sitting in Ohio, I actually wasn't that familiar with the Habit at the time. So I joined the Yum family in 2020 as well. So one of the early things that happened in my Yum journey was watching us acquire the Habit, but I didn't actually get the opportunity to go out and try it for myself until I was starting to talk to my former boss, David Gibbs, and Tracy Skeens about the opportunity to come over here. And so I almost got to kind of study it, right? Study it as a customer and study it as a business person. And I was very intrigued by the idea of plugging this beloved challenger brand into the world's largest restaurant company. At the time I came over 3 years ago, the brand was kind of just emerging from COVID and the channel pivot. So there was still a lot of opportunity, right, for us to leverage being part of the Yum family. So that piece really intrigued me. But what really got me, honestly, was being in the restaurants, tasting the food. Our food is unbelievable. The first time I ate it, I mystery shopped us in Arizona and I was taking pictures of the food. I didn't know how often our customers actually do that, right? And post the actual pictures of the food on Instagram. Whenever I talk to agencies, they're always amazed that our food actually looks like the pictures, right? It looks good, it tastes good, it's really fresh and delicious. And then I got the opportunity to walk the restaurants with Russ Bendel, my predecessor, who had scaled the brand, and saw, what brings that to life in the restaurant itself and the incredible culture of operations. And so I was hooked. Right? So I went up and picked up and moved my family. We had been in Dallas, Texas for a long time. We became Orange County residents, 3 years ago. And it's been a really cool journey to be a part of.
I imagine. I mean, and again, to be a part of the Yum family and have access to the incredible resources that you do, not only for leadership, you mentioned David Gibbs, now the former CEO, but Tracy Skeens. I mean, some of the people in this organization that you have access to.
Legends.
Incredible. And I was mentioning with your colleagues before we hit record, I mean, you're a part of the Taco Bell headquarters, because I've looked in the windows. I was at Taco Bell headquarters. I looked at it. I was like, hey, there's the Habit
I'll
folks.
invite you in, Sam. You can come
Thank
have
you.
lunch with me.
I'm just banging on the door. Let me in. I want a burger. So, I mean, again, the resources here, it's incredible. Tell me about how being a part of the Yum family really levels Habit Burger up.
I think it's our secret advantage, right? Against none of the other. Better Burger is this category yet to be won. We're all of similar size, kind of fighting it out, and nobody else has the scale and skill of the world's largest restaurant company. So it's been huge for us. So one of the first things we did was plug in our purchasing into the co-op that buys for all the Yum brands in the U.S., and that gives us access to better product, right? Better prices, better innovation. My favorite example there is how we remade our packaging suite to be better for the guests, because more of our burgers and food are leaving the restaurant, right? It's better for the planet, better for the P&L, better for the guest. But as you're mentioning, like, there are legends that walking through this building every time. So the best of skill is also a huge part of the way that we leverage being part of Yum. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in the same building as Taco Bell right now? I mean, they're just incredible in the way that they're performing. And, one very live wire example for us. So you probably read that Sean Tresvant is playing this broader role within Yum. He's not only leading Taco Bell, but he's now our chief consumer officer. And so I was already, calling and asking for advice from him and his team, but that's kind of formalized that. And one of the ways they've really helped us recently was with the launch of our Gotta Have It meal deals. So nobody does value better than Taco Bell. As we were trying to think through how we leverage that insight, but do it in a way that's right for the habit, they were tremendous coaches for us in thinking about, we should brand that offer like they do with Lux Cravings boxes. We should do it with variety and options, right? A lot of people just put a single price point out there. So that's just one example of the way that our Yum colleagues are helping drive our business.
I imagine, especially today, that is helpful because, we're in, it's sort of lame to say unprecedented times because we've said that for 5 years now. But, especially just the state of the economy, it's unpredictable and it's behaving in ways I don't think we have seen before. You can't just say, well, this is what's going to happen next because this is how it's happened before, because it's not going that way. But if we just kind of say, here we are today, the state of things, I mean, how do you feel like a Better Burger player like Habit Burger, what is the position for this brand today in this economy? You mentioned value. I imagine you guys, like everybody else, are trying to figure out what that value offering is to a consumer who's increasingly looking for it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in restaurants now 5.5 years. So I joined in 2020. I guess to some degree, I'm still waiting for whatever the time is that doesn't have all of these disruptions. You let me know, Sam, when it's coming.
I don't think it's coming back.
But all jokes aside, I think, the mindset my team and I need to have is like the disruptions are just coming faster and faster. Right? And so we need to be prepared to pivot very quickly, move very fast. I think that's something we can do, right? As a smaller restaurant brand, not that we're that tiny with 380 restaurants, right? But we own and operate many of them. We have really good franchise partners by our side, so we can respond really quickly to what's going on in the market. And to your point, a lot of what we've been thinking about lately is our customers. So we target families. So they're oftentimes trying to feed not just themselves, but themselves and, you can make a family many ways, right? But their children or their partners or the other people in their lives. And I think the American consumer is just more pressured than ever these days. So we've really been thinking a lot about value. And thankfully, we had done all that work to plug into Yum's supply chain, because now we're in a much better position to be able to deliver on what our families need.
Mhm.
So I just talked to our Got a Habit meal deals, the $6, $8, and $10 meal deals that we're offering. I think those are an incredible value in the marketplace because, they feature our iconic products with sourdough bread and grilled chicken and avocado, right? And our tempura green beans. I mean, this is not inexpensive, value. This is value without compromise. But I'm also really proud of our family char box, which came from that thinking about the family and the fact that they're trying to, these days it's kind of a noble pursuit being able to come home and feed your family. So to be able to come home with this incredible box of delicious food, it looks like a present, right? $35, and feed your family for that price point in a way that they enjoy. I do think that's a way that we can help and be part of the solution.
Yeah, I imagine though too, like, again, talking about this idea of you're a better burger player, right? And better burger, clearly, I mean, it's got better in the name. The idea has always been
Yes.
kind of a notch above the other burger players. But like anybody else, obviously value still has to become, one of your primary objectives today. How do you walk that sort of tightrope between we need to be a level above and we can't get locked into this mindset of deep discounts or cheapening our product, but also to your point, offering that idea of value because everybody at this point in time wants what they perceive to be value.
Yeah, I think it goes back to understanding what our customers are looking for. So I mentioned that we target families. If you look at the sort of family that we're targeting out there in the universe, they have something in common, which is they don't want to compromise on the choices that they make. This shows up in they want to be parents, but they also want to be individuals. It also shows up in how they shop. So they're not looking for something that's just cheap and fast and right?
Yeah.
Makes them not feel good about the choice. And when I listen to our customers describe why they come to us because they can have food that tastes good, that makes them feel good. That's actually really unique in the category. You have loads of other people out there positioning on feel good, on health, right? And those sorts of benefits. But then usually the customer feels they're not going to get the number one burger in America, right? The number one grilled chicken sandwich in America. So we can do both those things. And I think that's the zone where we need to play. We need to not compromise in the way that we deliver value, which means it can't be a tiny little portion, right? It can't be
Right.
something that we wouldn't be proud to feed our own families. And that's a harder thing to solve for. But I think when you do with the family char box or Gotta Have It, that's what the customer's really looking for, right?
Mhm.
Versus value that doesn't really fit the bill. And I think that is better. We have a mantra here at The Habit. We call it, we believe in better. And that pushes us to keep getting better and better at everything we do. We should always be better tomorrow than we were today.
Sure.
And it's a really nice way for us to engage as a team around holding ourselves to high standards, but in a way that's really all about driving for impact for our guests.
Something that's come up with a lot of my guests recently too is just about the sort of redefined nature of value, because it's not just that price point, it's also experience, it's service, it's it's a perception, again, that perception held by every single individual uniquely, but the perception of value is way more than this cost me only $10, therefore that's where I'm going to go. I'm wondering, how does Habit Burger create, beyond these deals that you guys have put together for families and other deals, how else are there ways that you guys create that better opportunity that you're talking about, that you guys are always aiming for something better? What else does that look like?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's very kind of pertinent to the thinking we're doing right now at The Habit. So right now we're all focused on double charging growth, right? As we think about how we double charge growth in the marketplace and basically climb that better burger leaderboard to win market share. There's absolutely a core element of maintaining the magic that's been us all along. Like, we have always won on taste, right? And I am very serious about safeguarding and nourishing that advantage. But a lot of being able to double charge growth is being able to do things you haven't done, right, as well historically. And a lot of our thinking right now is about delivering what we're calling a fresh experience for our guests. So when you come into our restaurants, we historically have always provided this very friendly hospitality. That was kind of what The Habit was known for historically. And it was something that was surprising and kind of delighting, right, in the price point and the more quick service category in which we played. But as our business pivoted more away from the dining room into other off-premise channels, we focused a lot on making sure we maintained accuracy and maintained the basics. But what we're trying to think through now is how we really do have that incredible surprise and delight of a fresh experience for our guests across the board. So we've been experimenting in 2 different markets in the US, a market in Phoenix and a market in Miami, with this kind of comprehensive transformation of how we're showing up for our guests. We call it a glow up. And part of that transformation, so we remodeled the restaurants inside and out, but we've also been working with this new position we're calling a hospitality host, to think about how we bring back that surprise and delight for our guests, whether it's as simple as helping a first-time guest understand what should you order on the Habit menu, right? We have so many good options. What's going to be the right choice for you, given your eating preferences, your eating style, sampling some of the products, right, that we have that, there's always that little bit of, ooh, I might want to try that, but maybe I should stick with the safer option that I know I've had before. Well, once you have our tempura green beans, like, good luck, Sam, you're never going back, right? So let me just get that out there for you to try it with our signature ranch, or just having a human connection with a person, whether it's somebody coming through one of our pickup lanes, or somebody in one of our restaurants. So I think service matters a lot, and it's not just speed. And so figuring out that fresh take on service and experience, I think, will be part of what propels our double charge growth plan.
Shannon, I just have to tell you, in this age where everybody's telling me I got to use AI for something or other, everything that you just said sounded so refreshing. Because look, I don't not believe that AI is a part of our future, but you just described a very human experience, and I imagine that must be important to your guest.
It is. And I feel like people tend to think you could have either technology or human. And I actually think the sweet spot is right in the middle of that, right? It's humans leveraging technology, but in a way that feels natural and authentic. So, we've driven a tremendous digital transformation in this business. Coming into COVID, this brand was a dine-in brand. We had less than 10% digital sales. I now have more than 50% of my sales coming through digital channels. But there's a real difference to having a human stand next to you, right? Next to a screen and help you navigate that. That's actually a better ordering experience than looking at a menu board, right? That doesn't tell you much about the products. And so I think that's just a fantastic example of where technology and human can work together in a way that's really beautiful. I'm very excited about our pickup lanes as well in that way, because I feel like you're not stuck in a lane, right? Waiting for your order, because we do cook to order. We hold ourselves to a really high standard of freshness. Here, you could let us know when you're coming and have a better experience where the human engagement you're having is really value-added human engagement, right? You're not just stuck waiting in a drive-through.
Yeah, well, thinking about also that host position. It sounds like what you're doing is making an investment in labor, which is at a time, a lot of people are looking to at least alleviate labor problems with AI or technology. Tell me about your strategy with labor, because especially in a day and age today where this is very expensive, it is certainly there are more expectations from employers to be an employer of choice. How do you show up when it comes to your teams, invest in that labor, but making sure that you're still not that line on the P&L is not getting too out of hand?
I think labor is the biggest investment in our P&L. And it is an investment. It's not an expense. I think historically, one of the huge strengths of the Habit was being able to deliver consistently across restaurants. I really enjoy how consistently my team executes. I enjoy the energy and vibes across. So I think you have to know, right, that this is an investment. These are people. These are human beings doing jobs. That isn't to say we couldn't get more efficient. A lot of what my team's driven over the last couple of years is a program I called More Magic, More Margin. And it's about figuring out how we deliver that magic to customers, great taste, great experience, but do it in a way that was better for the P&L, because we needed to earn the right to grow before we accelerated our growth plan, which is where we are now. And you find loads of examples of ways we can better support our team members at doing things that they don't really enjoy doing, right? Or we can make much easier in the way that they do that. One of my favorite examples right now in our restaurants is auto liftgate fryers. We used to fry to visual cues, basically. Well, the team members are doing a lot of things back there that is hard for them to balance, right? Getting an onion ring right that fries for less time than a fry or tempura green beans. And it's also results in less consistency for our guests. So I think you look for examples like this to take away the things that aren't as value added for our team members. And suddenly you've freed up the ability to be able to invest in the front of the house in things that really truly make a difference for our customers. So we've done both, I believe. We've invested, but we've also figured out how to fund the investment by getting smarter.
Okay, I want to get back to the glow up because I imagine that is another investment to retrofit restaurants. I imagine this is also is this the design of all future builds too? Is this the Habit Burger of the future?
It's the working design at this point. Because we believe in better, I bet you we'll continue to make it even better as we roll it out. But it's been so exciting, actually. What excites me the most about it, so we took 20 restaurants, 10 in Phoenix, 10 in Miami, and we flowed through a package. It's about 40 changes in total. And there are changes to the guest experience. There are also things like new uniforms, right? New pagers. We have an exciting new bubbler lineup. This is beautiful, a rainbow of colors and flavors. All these different adjustments we made. We tweaked our menu to try to make it easier for our team member to deliver consistently. And of the 41 changes, 25 of them we had tested before. So we had pretty good sense that those would work. And we were actually brave enough to put 15 out there, kind of from a more prototyping standpoint, to let our team massage and shape. And that's been as transformative as the remodels themselves, to be honest with you, because we hold ourselves to a very high bar of being able to answer all the questions from our team members. And here we're actually trusting them to figure it out as we go. The host is one such example of those 15 things. We hadn't tested it, right? We're prototyping it live. And most of those things are working. They might not work exactly right out of the gate. You might have to twist it this way and twist it that way. How are we staffing it? Who's the right personality for the role? What tools do we give them? But that's so exciting to me because you see the guest response to this package of things that we've changed, and you see the team response to being trusted, right? To be able to shape our future. That's really exciting.
Well, there's risk involved to that too. We've seen that, some companies out there this year making changes that their customers don't like. These things could be ultimately failures, but that's why you do test things, or why you have the ability to be flexible or change things. What is your measure of success with those changes? Because as you put those into market, you're testing these things in real time. How do you know something is a success versus something is a failure?
So we're looking at some business indicators, primarily same-store sales growth, right, is the one we've got our eye on, and transaction growth in particular, with customers voting with their feet. But we're also really measuring customer feedback along the way. So as long as we get this piece right of how customers are responding, the business will respond in kind. And we're doing some things that actually won't, we don't think will show up in same-store sales growth straight away. When you move a drive-through lane to a pickup lane, there's an element of patience, right? The customer needing to learn that. But you can take a look at, what's happening channel by channel to your transactions and get a pretty good read of what's going on. And you can ask guests, is this a better experience? Or do I need to change the way I'm migrating you from drive-through to pickup lane? Maybe there's some insights in that for me as well. So there are areas of our business that are higher risk. And I think probably a lot of restaurant leaders have some packaged goods experience, myself included, and we're used to kind of stage gate processes, right? And I just don't think you can do everything that way in today's fast-paced environment. I think you actually have to understand some things are riskier and you have to be careful. Food safety, right? Like that, we have to be careful. We can't speed that up. Issues that touch upon legal risk. Okay, right? I'll be slower and I'll be more cautious. But a lot of times I felt like that was slowing us down from actually getting something out there and just letting it evolve. Because having people out there engaging our guests and telling us what works to delight someone, how much risk is in that, really?
Right. Yeah, it's amazing to think about, because just talking about this with another guest, which is the idea of the pendulum swinging, because, that's with all things, this pendulum kind of swings from side to side, right? But it's faster and faster, where, things are changing so quickly now. Obviously, social media is fueling that. If you look at your neighbors at Taco Bell and the, frequency with which they're doing menu innovations, they really sped that up this year, because it just feels like the attention span gets shorter and shorter among consumers, and there's just constant pressure to, jump to the next thing to get their attention. For a burger brand like Habit Burger, I imagine getting swept up into that can feel a little scary because you also don't want to sacrifice those core principles that you've talked about that commitment to being better. Simultaneously, in today's marketplace, you, like everybody else, have to get the guests' attention. How do you resolve that tension? Because it's like you have to change, you have to be like, look at us over here, but simultaneously, I mean, you're working with a brand that's been around for decades and has a legacy behind it. You kind of can't mess with that. Where's the tension in that?
One thing you will quickly learn about me is I tend to view challenges as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Forever an optimist, right?
That's
Figure
great.
out how to take advantage of it. So, when I first stepped into this role, I knew I needed to build a brand, and I knew I needed to build a brand with less resources than some of my sister brands would have around me. If you fast forward to only 3 years later, how the customer is processing information and how brands are being built, I actually think it kind of levels the playing field, right? It's not
true.
all about big budgets and advertising campaigns that are traditional. A lot of I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, right? So I'm watching this all happen in real time and hoping we're making the right choices, for the future at home and at work. But I mean, they're consuming a tremendous amount of information, but very quickly, right? And brands are getting built in ways that aren't something that gets decided here in the office. So I actually think you have to shift your strategy to play in a different game. But I think it almost levels off the playing field around, you think about creator-based marketing. Well, actually, I can do quite a lot of that, right? I can do like proportionately versus other brands. Local marketing is important for a brand like mine as well. I can also play very meaningfully in that space. And so I think, as opposed to a lot of eggs in few baskets as a leader, you actually have to think about it as having more bets on a board, right? And which of these take off? And then let me lean behind the ones that are taking off more quickly. And I think that's different from the way even I would have thought of building a brand 3 or 5 years ago.
No, it's well put. That's really interesting. Okay, you mentioned a growth plan. You guys are growing. You're coast to coast now, which, prior to recent years, you were primarily a West Coast brand. Now you're coast to coast. What does growth look like today? Because everything I hear is oversaturation of restaurants, not a lot of opportunity. Certainly, many companies are struggling with, four-wall growth. How does the Habit Burger approach growth today, considering all of those conditions?
So we still have so much room to grow. We have 380 restaurants. We are in 14 states, as you mentioned, but I mean, there's loads of humans in America that are nowhere near a Habit today, right? So I don't view that as a constraint on our growth in any way, shape, or form. So we are really focused on growing in multiple dimensions. The Double Charge growth plan has 3 cylinders. I talked a bit about the fresh experience, breakthrough brand, which we were just talking a bit about. How do we break through as a brand more quickly? And then the third is about scaling smart. And so in scaling smart, we actually still have room to grow in California. We have about 250 restaurants in California, but there's still plenty more. I think we've opened 9 restaurants in California in the last couple of months. So we're still growing in our home zone. We're growing in our established expansion markets, which we've still got West Coast markets that are growing as well, where we're looking to continue to expand in places like Utah and Phoenix, and then East Coast markets as well. And then we're entering new markets again, which I hadn't done right out of the gates because I wanted to make sure we were really scaling, and I called it finishing our homework, right? In the markets that we were in. We're back to a place where we're actually opening new markets. So we've opened 3 new markets recently. Portland, Oregon was a hole for us on the West Coast. Some really exciting new stores opening there. Jacksonville, Florida just opened in the last month. We got 2 more stores coming on the heels of that one. And then we opened kind of the Virginia Beach, Newport News area this year as well. So we are back to growth mode, and I'm excited about it.
How do you read the broader Better Burger market? Because obviously you've got competitors in Shake Shack, you've got a competitor in Culver's, Five Guys. This was the hottest category about 15 years ago. I think it kind of leveled out. But I mean, to your point, yourself and competitors still a ton of growth potential.
Yeah.
What do you see as the state of Better Burgers and where it could go?
I still see Better Burger as a very exciting space. I think if you look over basically any time frame you want to over the last decade, it is growing faster than QSR Burger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where customers are voting with their feet. They don't want to compromise. They want a better product. They still want convenience and value. The other thing that excites me about our positioning in particular is with our broader assortment of having burgers, sandwiches, and salads. We relaunched salads this year. They are unbelievable if you haven't had our grilled chicken salads, is we play not only with Better Burger players, we also compete with a broader set of fast casual players. And that's certainly been another area of exciting growth for people. So if I ask my customer, kind of what's for dinner and what kind of choice are you making, I'm more often seeing them trade off between us and a fast casual than I am us and another burger, because we become their burger of choice in the portfolio. So I feel like the space we play in is actually, I mean, like we were talking about, no spaces without challenges, but it's better than most.
That's fascinating. I mean, thinking of how many burger brands are selling more chicken than burgers. I mean, chicken, of course, has become huge. But you mentioned bubblers. Did you mention having bubblers? I mean, beverage is really driving the bus for a lot of growth these days. What are some of the menu innovations that you feel like will help Habit Burger achieve the growth it wants to achieve?
So we've got a couple exciting things brewing in the world of menu. Beverages, you mentioned, is one of them. So this expanded lineup of our limeades, one of our best-selling beverages has been for a while our strawberry limeade, but we're leaning into that. We've got a cucumber limeade that is unreal, so good, a dragon fruit limeade. So you're going to see us having more flavors across the bubbler and also some more feel-good options coming there. We're going to lean into what we did with salads and start to play in bowls in a more meaningful way. So we'll continue to build on our salad assortment, and we're working on and testing some innovations that kind of take us from salad toward bowl as well. And then the third plank of innovation for us is really all about the family, with the family char box and how we continue to offer kind of group occasions and group meal occasions for our guests.
Got it. Well, I love the optimism, by the way, because I find myself to be an optimistic person too. But covering the economy today, it's tough. And if I think about what is going on in the restaurant industry today, and some of the macro trends, a lot of folks had written off casual dining, but now suddenly casual dining is resurgent, and Chili's is, of course, crushing. Well, suddenly people are writing off fast casual now, and saying fast casual is not getting the trade down it might once have gotten. And, of course, all across the industry, consumers are pulling back on spend. It feels like there's just sort of a lot of negative of what's happening in the restaurant industry. But, fellow optimist to optimist here, we see positive in the industry too. What do you see as being the opportunity ahead of not just Habit Burger, but all of this industry as it relates to the consumer and what they're going to expect out of restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still so much room for great concepts to win at its crux. If you really understand what the guest is looking for. I don't think the guest sees the industry the way we do. They don't put people into these neat little boxes, of this is QSR and this is, quick service dining. And they just don't, right? They're thinking to myself, am I going for dinner tonight at Chili's or the Habit, or where am I going? That's the sort of,
and how much am I spending, right? Yeah.
And so I think, if you focus on what they're looking for, and you deliver better than most, there's still plenty of growth out there in population, right? And consumers who are eating, for us, and footprint. I think there's plenty of growth to be had, and we just need to play that game as best we can.
Preach, sister, preach. These are. I think we need to get out in front of people more often. I think that a lot too, which is when we put these things into boxes and we ascribe some sort of value to that box that the vast majority of people don't even understand what the box is. They're not going to understand what the value of that box really what that means. What are headwinds though? I mean, obviously, naturally, I'm sure you're watching some headwinds that are facing the Habit Burger business. Yeah. What are the primary things you're watching today, and how are you trying to overcome those?
I started out this year actually asking for more frequent updates on the things that were changing a lot, whether it was kind of tariffs in the supply chain, right, or what's going on with the market. And I actually found that was not it wasn't really beneficial for me and my team because the pace of change is moving so quickly that primarily what I focus on is the consumer and the top line dynamics. Because I think at the end of the day, all of these different things that are flying around, that's where it really shows up for our business is what's happening with the consumer. So I feel like the more time I can be connecting with customers out in our restaurants, that's what really keeps me current. And we try to focus on how we stay part of the solution versus part of the problem. So I get a lot of energy out of our partnership with No Kid Hungry, which is more than a decade old. It predates me in this role, but we've been trying to think through how we can make it even more impactful in the wake of what's going on in America right now with customers. And it's hard to believe that still 1 in 5 kids faces food insecurity in America today. We continue to lean into that partnership. I think by the time you publish this, we'll have just had a Good Habits Day where we're actually giving any guest that makes $1 or more donation to No Kid Hungry a free double char, which is the #1 burger in America. That's a great ROI, right? $1 donation, get a free double char. And so, we're just trying to figure out how we can help our customer, not just in our business, but also leveraging the resources of being part of Yum and Recipe for Good Growth and what we can do to drive good growth in America.
Sure. I love that. That's awesome. Before we wind down here, Shannon, I want to also talk a little bit about you as a leader, because I imagine in tough times like this, obviously people look to their leaders, right? They need some stability. They need some continuity. They need a path forward for somebody to show them that path forward. You've been with Habit Burger, or we've been with Yum now for 5 years, Habit Burger for 3 years. How do you see your leadership of this brand and how you can trickle down that leadership into a culture for your team?
I've always believed that people make the biggest difference. You can focus on the what of how you drive the business, and that's important, right? But if you don't have the right folks who are driving it and they're not feeling like their voices are included, you're not going to get very far. So I've always felt that people make the biggest difference. I feel like I learned a lot as a leader on how to navigate the Habit team in my first couple of years here. I intuitively knew walking in that the heart of the Habit was in the restaurants. And I spent a lot of time in the restaurants, but we were driving quite a lot of change early on, very quickly. And there was a period when I felt like the team at the office was kind of pulling ahead of the team at the restaurants, and that's dangerous. Right? That's a really dangerous place to be. And in that moment, I knew the problem, but I didn't actually know how to solve it. So I did what any good leader should do when they're not sure, right? Which is ask for help. So I kind of went to my team and told them what I was experiencing. We ended up bringing in some folks to help us with some listening conversations. They talked to folks at the restaurant, franchisees, folks at the office. And we landed upon this rallying cry that I mentioned earlier in the conversation, we believe in better, which really forms for us a bridge between what's made the Habit special and historically and where we need to go in the future. So we believe in better. Better by Char celebrates our amazing food and all the irrational commitment we have to quality, right, that we carry with us and always need to safeguard. Better together, recognition of teamwork, and the best burger in America, I always say, is made by more than one person. If you watch us in the kitchen, right, the way it comes together. And the same is true of any success we've had as a business. It's always is a team effort. And then better tomorrow, always driving ourselves to be better tomorrow than we were today. So I learned a lot as a leader in that journey. Because what felt as like change resistance to me at first is actually a deep caring for what we stand for and what we do for our guests. And I needed to listen a little bit better and speak the right language to motivate people so that they understood that where we were headed was still very much connected to what we had always done, but pushing us farther. So I feel like I learned a lot in this role.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, culture being so important today to the success of an organization, partly because of labor. And again, we were talking about that investment in your team and goes beyond wages, right? It extends to the ways in which your employees see you investing in them and seeing what they need from a human standpoint, not just from a payment standpoint. As you go forward into this growth plan and as Habit Burger does become a better known brand name across the country, how do you continue to invest in culture? How do you scale culture? And what are some ways you're looking at protecting it as it gets bigger and bigger?
That's where I think this platform is very exciting because I can lead to some degree from my seat, but how do you scale it? You need a whole bunch of cultural ambassadors, right? Who really speak the same language and are able to make decisions that are right for where we're ultimately headed. So we, as we even build our annual plan, we don't just, we have double charge growth, right? We think about all the kind of levers we're pulling to be able to deliver that. We also have a plan for We Believe in Better. We plan for it like it's any other business initiative. We think about how we invest in it, how we nourish it, how we continue to drive and make ourselves better. And a lot of that is making sure that you're indoctrinating the leaders who are coming in quickly, right, with learning what's special about us and where we're going. But I think you have to manage it just like you would anything else in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Shannon, last question for you. What's next for Habit Burger? We talked about, the growth plan and how you guys are really updating this brand, but what else is exciting you about the future of Habit Burger?
What is most exciting to me is how quickly we are changing things, which we talked about as we were talking about our citywide remodels and the glow up, but we're doing it more and more. I think what I start to see is us hitting like a faster velocity, right, of change. That flywheel is kind of speeding up and moving us quicker and quicker. And so we've been growing about the pace of the industry over the last 5 years, if you look at it, but you think about that pace of change accelerating us. And I think it just gets us faster to that vision of being number one in better burger and beyond.
Very exciting to watch, and good luck to you, Shannon Hennessy, CEO of the Habit Burger. Really appreciate your time today. That was my interview with Habit Burger CEO Shannon Hennessy. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 6 takeaways. My first takeaway is that your customers have their own unique definition of value. Of course, value has been a huge emphasis this year and last year in the restaurant industry as everybody is struggling with traffic. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get customers back into the restaurant. But the fact is that value has a lot of different definitions. It's kind of a sliding scale, and different customers have their own different definition of what value means to them. I appreciate that Shannon talked about for Habit Burger, this idea of value really comes down to not, smaller portion sizes or not the lowest price point. But for Habit Burger, a lot of it has to do with how much bang for my buck am I getting for my entire family. And so Habit Burger has a few ways they're providing that value. They have this new Gotta Have It meal deals where they have the $6, $8, $10 price points that gets you a variety of food at each price point. They also have their char box where you can get, kind of a bulk order for the family through that char box. But Shannon was trying to point out that, at Habit Burger, they never want to skimp on quality, certainly never want to skimp on the experience or on service. And so they can't just, offer something that is less than as part of value. They have to recognize their customer where they're at, which is we want great food for our family. And Habit Burger designed that perfect value offering for them. And I think that lesson there again is, what does value mean for your guest? It might not mean lowest price point. It might not mean whatever value is for the QSR player. It is going to mean something completely different for your unique guest. And you have to figure that out and figure out how to give that value to them. My second takeaway is that scaling your business requires strength in new areas. So Habit Burger, once upon a time, really was always focused on hospitality and providing that great dine-in experience. But over time, as Habit Burger grew, it started focusing less on the dine-in experience and more on drive-through and off-premises and all of the new ways that customers were engaging with the brand. And it got very good at those operational aspects of it. But Shannon was saying that as they grow, they need to get stronger in some of these other areas, like, once again, they need to be strong in hospitality. That's why as Habit Burger rolls out this new prototype, a part of it is a hospitality position, someone who is essentially a host that's welcoming guests in and helping them with their order. If they've never been there before, that person's going to help them try some new foods and understand the menu a little bit better. And so this idea behind the new prototype and beefing up its hospitality, the idea is really to improve this element of Habit Burger that wasn't as strong as it once was, but making it stronger again so that Habit Burger can be really firing on all cylinders as it scales. So the idea here again is that, as you grow, there's going to be parts to your business that you are going to need to be stronger at. Your business will evolve. You'll have to meet new customers in new kinds of ways. And so that might be a little bit uncomfortable. It might be a little bit different. But figure out what some of those those elements are that you're not as strong at, and figure out how you can get stronger so that as you grow, you can meet those customers in that moment. My third takeaway is that the labor line on your P&L should be seen as an investment, not as an expense. That was a direct quote there from Shannon about how they see labor today. And I totally agree with this. And hopefully you see this as well. Labor, of course, has become one of the most expensive line items on your P&L, if not the most expensive, because of where we are today with wages, because of the competitive nature of labor today. But where you might look at that line on your P&L, that labor line, and just wince because of how costly it's become, maybe it's going to help you to sort of reframe it and say, hey, yes, that's a major part of my P&L, but this is an investment in my people. This is the ability to take care of human beings who are looking to make a decent living, a decent wage, and people who want to be a part of my business and what I'm building here and could be with me for a long time. These are also the people who are taking care of my guests and serving my product. If you reframe this again as that investment and not as just an expense you have to pay, I think you're going to be able to swallow that a little bit better, and you're going to really start to look at your team a little bit differently and hopefully build the culture that you want to build, intuitively that you're supposed to build, but which has been hard to build because of the cost associated. Your people are an investment. They are human beings that need to be invested in. And when you see them as that, hopefully that will give you permission to go build something special as far as your culture. Take care of them because they will be taking care of your guests. My fourth takeaway is that you don't have the luxury of time with brand changes, but you do need to be patient with results. Shannon talks about the fact that, once upon a time, or in other categories, other industries, leaders may have been able to have that stage gate process. And, with a stage gate process, basically what that is different levels that you move brand changes through. Or maybe you're launching a new menu item and you introduce it as, at a certain number of restaurants before increasing to another, larger number of restaurants before moving it on through that stage gate process. And she was talking about the fact that you don't really have that luxury anymore. Things are changing so fast today in the restaurant industry and just in society in general that you have to really kind of roll out changes in real time and just see how they evolved. She talked about that fact that this new glow up that they're doing at 20 restaurants between Miami and Arizona. She talked about the fact that they include something like 40 different changes to the brand, and 25 of them are completely new to Habit Burger. And, she talked about that fact that they kind of just had to roll those changes out and see how they did. Because if they went through that stage gate process with 25 different changes, it could take forever to get them out there to the broader system. But you don't have that luxury of time. You just have to kind of change, move on, and learn and adapt as these changes evolve and take hold with your customer. But the fact of the matter is you still also have to be patient with results. So with the new change, she talked about this adjustment from drive-through ordering to a pickup lane and how that's a change for the customer. So she can't measure results immediately because she has to wait until the customer embraces that change, understands it, and works it into their lifestyle. And that's true of so many of your changes. We've talked about changes in the restaurant industry a lot for the last few months. We've had a lot of high-profile changes, and some of them have been kind of disastrous. And I'm not making judgment here as to whether any changes have been good or bad, but I think we have learned a lot about what you have to do when it comes to change in your restaurant. And I think you have to understand your customer. You have to do a lot of research. But the fact of the matter is for a lot of you out there, you probably just need to make the change, rip the Band-Aid off, and then wait and be patient to see how customers adjust to it. Some of that is risky, and Shannon talked about that. She said a lot of this is risk. Some things you cannot take risk with. You cannot be risky with. For example, she said food safety. But some of this you really need to be risky with. You need to be risky with the change to your restaurants, risky with your change to your value proposition, maybe risky with your service model or that hospitality, whatever that is. It's going to be uncomfortable and risky at first, but you just need to make the changes, see how they go, and adjust in real time. Because if you don't, you're going to miss the moment and everybody will have moved on to the next thing. That's how fast this change of pace is going today in this industry. My fifth takeaway is that restaurant leaders of today must be better gamblers. I don't mean that literally. I'm not here telling you you got to go out and gamble. You do you. What I'm telling you to do, though, is what Shannon said, which is I thought was such a great analogy, where she said, it used to be that you had eggs that you put in a certain number of baskets. That's how you led a business. But today, because there are so many different opportunities out there today for a restaurant leader, things have fractured so much that she sees it as you really just have a bigger board where you're placing bets, and you're placing more and more bets, and you're seeing which bets take off. And then you're leaning into those things that really took off. The best example of this is social media marketing, the creator economy, and how, there's millions of people you could team with to do that marketing for you. And you have to kind of just put a bet here, a bet there, and see what works. And as it, takes off again, you just sort of pick which bets are working best and kind of go in that direction. And I think that's such a good mentality. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, that all of this is risk. Just like a gambler, you're placing bets, you're taking risk. You can make smart bets. You can take smart risks. But at the end of the day, as a restaurant leader, you have a lot of options available to you. It's not just 3 baskets that you're putting your eggs into. It's just infinite number of baskets. So how do you be a better gambler? How do you be smarter at this game you're playing? Place those smarter bets, see what works. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, where, kind of iterate on what is working, and then go from there, because that's going to be the best, fastest way that you're going to be able to bring positive change to your business. My sixth and final takeaway is that your corporate and restaurant employees must be aligned as one team. Shannon said that when she came into the Habit Burger business, she invested in team, but she saw that corporate team was kind of out ahead of where the restaurant team was, and she wanted to bring them into alignment. And so they brought some folks in to help them with that process. They listened across the system. They built some core values, a rallying cry, as Shannon said, that everybody could kind of get behind and make their sort of main mission. And that's working wonderfully for Habit Burger, as Shannon said. Point there is that you have a lot of different stakeholders in your business. You have folks on your corporate team. You have folks in your restaurants, managers, floor line, floor employees, back of house, front of house. Whatever the position may be, no matter what they do, they should be aligned to your core values, aligned to a common rallying cry of your business. And you, if you're the CEO, the founder, the head honcho, you have to be the one that brings everybody into alignment. And if you can do that, you're going to have a much easier job growing your business and enjoying healthy growth with your customer. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and talk to you next week.
Blind taste tests prove it. Tabasco Salsa Picante wins. The superior Mexican-style hot sauce.